some gaming on the Galaxy Book4 Edge, since I know a lot of people were really wondering about the gaming performance on these new Snapdragon X Elite processors. So I have here the base model. This is the $1,350 model, has 16 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gigs of storage, and it has the base version of the X Elite processor. So if you look over here in my GPU settings, you can see here it's the X1E80. There's also an 84. I saw a few benchmark tests. If you're going to be wanting to do gaming specifically on this, you don't have to necessarily bump up to that max version of this X Elite processor. I have some old school RuneScape running. So this is a native game. This is the ARM64 version client of this game. So this runs on a ton of different computers. I've been mainly using it on the MacBook Pros, but I would much rather be on a Windows system. I think a lot of other people out there would also like to be on a Windows system. I'm super excited here, and that's why I'm even doing this in the first place, to show off some of the gaming performance here on the Galaxy Book4 Edge. So this is the 14-inch model. I've been more curious about this 14-inch model because these laptops are just insanely thin and light. So we have 2 pounds and 9 ounces. So this is a 2.5 pound laptop. That is just seriously impressive. It is so lightweight. It's lighter weight than the MacBook Airs actually. And it's a much more comfortable feel in the hand because you don't have these sharp edges digging into your hands. These have such sharp edges on them. So every time you're picking this up and transporting this and moving it to a different area, much less comfortable feel on the MacBooks. So that's why I'm super excited about these new laptops to start with. So I'll just give you a side profile here, if you can see this. They are just super thin computers. So when you hold this in the hand, especially on the corners, it's kind of tapered off here at the sides. It's just super lightweight. It's really just paper thin, honestly, on the corners where you're actually going to be grabbing it. Playing old school RuneScape right now, been running this at 100 frames per second, very smoothly. Jump over here to the metrics as far as the GPU performance. It's been using about 60 to 70% of the GPU. So I feel like it still could bump up a bit more. I'm not sure why I can't max out the GPU. Maybe in a future update, it's going to be able to run at maybe like 100% or max it out. I wasn't even sure if this was going to run at all because the previous Samsung ARM laptop, this thing was super small, but the performance on this just really never was enough for me. Now on this Book4 Edge, this is actually performing really well for me initially. So I've been gaming for about 2.5 hours on this, and we still have 30% battery left. Mind you, I've been running this at a very high brightness. It's at about 89% brightness right now. Going to be getting at least 3 to 3.5 hours of gaming on this, which I know doesn't sound like a ton, but I do have some other Windows laptops that I run this game on, and they only get about an hour and a half of battery on those before they die out. If I would have had this at 50% brightness, I mean, this could last at least 4 or more hours, which is super impressive. So to get at least twice as much battery on this, there's definitely a lot of potential here as far as the actual gaming goes. I feel like this has a lot of aesthetics and look and appearance of a Microsoft Surface laptop, but of course, having a Samsung laptop, you have all the standard software features, Samsung Notes and things like that. So I love having my Samsung Notes integrated because I actually really like the keyboard on this, even though it is a bit more shallow of keys. I can actually type really quickly and effectively on this. So you can see I've already done a ton of typing on this just for some of my initial testing. I will say that the trackpad on this is not incredible. It's certainly not of the caliber of the MacBooks with that haptic glass trackpad. It does have a little bit of give here. So it's not the most premium trackpad for sure. But again, I've been really enjoying the keyboard experience. The keyboard is incredibly good on this. Now, also as far as thermals go, this thing is just warm to the touch at best. It's really not hot at all. There is a fan in this, but it is running perfectly fine. It's not that loud at all. Thermals good, battery good, fan noise minimal. This is a 3K AMOLED display, 120 hertz. Like that's a big difference for me personally. The actual display technology is what attracts me to this so much more than a MacBook, even though everyone raves over the MacBook displays being so great and wonderful, the Pro Display XDR. But the problem I have with the MacBooks is that the screen response time is just horrible on those devices. I forget if it's 50 milliseconds, 60 milliseconds, or so that is why I've been looking for a laptop that can handle some of my gaming tasks and can just do everything on this. I love that these are becoming more of a mobile product so that you're able to get a ton more battery life mainly. You're getting very good thermals and you're getting pretty good performance. And with that, I just finished my task. Let's get into my next task and see how the performance does, kind of running around the game a little bit. Okay, so you can see here we are seeing a little dip, but it is holding well. So kind of hovering around 70 to 100 frames per second. Here's an actual look at a little dip of performance in here. If I'm zoomed out in a really graphically intense area, it really crashes hard, 15, 16 frames per second. If I zoom in to a more acceptable zoom angle, you can see it just bumps back up to that 100. And this happens on my Macs too. So if I would zoom out, it might get like 30 frames here. So you could argue that maybe some of the higher end Macs still have twice as much performance as this does. This is a more graphically intense area. I'm just sitting here at the Grand Exchange. You see here, I'm only running at 60 frames per second and it's at 60% usage. So I should be able to get 100 frames per second if this would just max out. Mind you, I am on the best performance mode. I'm not on any battery savers or anything like that. I know this is just early testing here, but for me personally, playing this game at, ranging in the 60 to 100 frames per second range and also getting incredibly good battery life, I'm really liking this package initially. I also have an M3 Pro MacBook Pro here, but I am actually going to be returning this now because I have this Book4 Edge and it does what I need to do more efficiently. It has a way superior display. The display cannot be understated on this. I know in this video it might not look amazing, even though this M3 Pro, it is a very good machine. And I think if you would pay the extra few $100s for this, you wouldn't be disappointed. But if you're going to be gaming specifically on this Mac, the screen response time is just horrible. I don't know how else to say it. Even though it has 120 hertz refresh rate, the actual screen response time as far as navigating and kind of moving your camera around and things like that. But as far as gaming specifically, this is a superior machine for me at this point in time. Really the only con I would say with this laptop for me initially is there's no Type A port. So I have to use my Type C adapter to then plug in my little Type A dongle to go with my wireless mouse. On the other side here, we have a headphone jack, which at least this is nice. I have the new Surface Pro and that does not have a headphone jack, which is annoying. And then we have the two Thunderbolt ports, $1,350. So again, this is not priced at MacBook Pro level of pricing. 2880 by 1800 display. This is touchscreen. We don't have an S Pen with this, which is kind of unfortunate. Granted, when I do have an S Pen on a Samsung laptop, I'm not really ever using it that much. I just prefer to use Samsung tablets as far as an S Pen experience. Just a hair over 2.5 pounds. I've been loving the weight on this smaller 14-inch model. We do have a fingerprint reader on here, which I honestly prefer that over the face recognition. Just instant to just put your finger on there, get in right away. Windows 11 Home. We have the base X1E 8100 processor on this, not the 84, but only has maybe like a 5% performance difference as far as gaming specifically goes. Qualcomm Adreno, so the GPUs used in the Samsung phones and tablets. So have that on a Windows laptop now. That's pretty interesting. Now the battery, 55.9 watt hours. So not the largest battery, but again, this is a super thin and light device. Now we do have Wi-Fi 7 on this. Bluetooth 5.3, that HDMI port is a 2.1. Could plug it into a 240 hertz monitor and get 4K 240 hertz. This has two Thunderbolt 4 ports. You could plug in an external GPU to this with the Thunderbolt 4 port, plug in an HDMI cable of the right spec to your monitor, and you could be doing 4K 240 hertz gaming with that setup. As far as this laptop itself, running this game for about 3 hours now, it is getting a little warmer to the touch. It's not cool to the touch, but if I'm doing the same thing on the MacBooks, it's also getting this warm, if not hotter. The new M3 Max, those actually get pretty hot. Okay, I got the low battery here. I'm probably gonna be dipping out here soon. Overall, as far as the gaming performance on this laptop, I'm getting 3 hours of battery life at a very high brightness. I'm very impressed with that. So there's definitely gonna be more to come. But thank you so much for watching and take care.